Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Matt, today's show, we are going to get everybody caught up to date with some of the signings. And today is probably the busiest day so far of the week. So we'll get everybody caught up to date with what's going on around the NHL. And then we're going to get into our top 10 goaltending list. So remember to like and subscribe, whether you're following us on YouTube or Facebook, and leave a comment below on our top 10 lists. And when we publish this video, we'll also include the top 10 for each of us so that you can comment. So, Matt, why don't you bring us up to date with some of the recent signings and as well as the PTOs that are happening right now around the league?
Yeah, well, it seems like the past few weeks, the big news days have always come on Wednesday, which is good for us. But yeah, the biggest signing today was Clayton Keller, huge contract extension with the Arizona Coyotes, 8 years, $57.2 million with a $7.15 million cap hit. This extension does not kick in until the 2020-21 season. Last season, he hit the sophomore slump. He had 14 goals, 47 points in 82 games. His rookie season, he had 23 goals, 65 points in a full season. I saw one of our fans comment about the potential risk of signing a player this early after having a down season. And like for me, I'm a big Keller fan, and I know with potential wise and whatever, it can go either way. But for me, I see a guy of his skill level bouncing back, and especially with guys like full seasons like with Phil Kessel and Nick Schmaltz, that he'll get up to around like the 70, 80 point mark. And I also look at like I think,
optimistic.
Yeah. It's like I still think like around the 70 point mark is something that he can hit this year. And I also look at Arizona as a team that, like, if you look at all the RFAs that have held out this year, they just totally want to avoid that with Keller next season. And of course, like he has all this season to prove that he's worth the money. And with the lack of star players that Arizona does possess, Keller has that game breaking ability. And I think that's worth every penny for Arizona. But
I do agree a little bit with our fan Dylan on. Thank you, by the way, Dylan, for your comments on Facebook. I do agree with some of the comments that he says. It does seem early to me in a player that's had, he had a great rookie season, a bit of a down season last year, but it just seemed a little early to me to pay him the money. I would have liked to see one more year. Just like the Canucks are negotiating with Brock Besser right now, I want to see one more year of what Brock can do and see if that consistency is there before you sign him to a long-term contract. I'm sure the goals will be there, but I just, it's one of those things. You don't know. That it's just such a risk, I think, giving that much cap space, salary, and term to a player that's only played a couple of seasons.
Yeah, and because and what I see, where the NHL is heading right now is that giving like players, like we've seen like players getting big contracts at like around like 30 years old and plus, those are starting to turn into bad contracts, and now the younger guys are wanting the big money right away. And I think we're slowly moving towards like teams are going to be paying big bucks right away to their younger players, and the older you are, the less money you might receive. I think so. We're sort of like in a transition period in the NHL where all the younger guys are going. But yeah, we'll see how he does this year, because it's like it does have the risk that you paid him too much money. But I'm pretty optimistic in how he'll do this year. The other re-signings that happened, the St. Louis Blues re-signed Ivan Barbashev to a 2-year, $2.95 million deal, $1.48 million cap hit. We all know what he did during the playoffs on that checking line.
That's a great signing.
Yeah. So it's a nice bridge deal, and I still think he has a little bit more of an offensive upside as well. But we'll see where he has it. The Blues have like a lot of young guys that are going to be fighting like for top 6, top 9 roles. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Also, the Vancouver Canucks re-signed Nikolai Godoldin to a 1-year, $900K deal. He had 7 goals, 27 points in 63 games last year. We saw him all last season as Canuck fans. He's a frustrating player. I think like to start the season, the first couple of months, he was on fire playing with Pedersen and Besser. But I think the one thing that drives Travis Green nuts is his defensive play, which can leave you wanting at times. But I still think with a player like Godolan, you can live. You have to live with some of the defensive lapses in his game, maybe he might get a shot in the top 6. But with all the players that the Canucks have at camp, he could be in that awkward position where if he's not in a top 6, top 9 role, he's not worth having in the lineup. But yeah, I'm hoping, I'm wishing him all the best because this is a make or break year for him for sure. So I'm hoping he can pull things together this year.
Excellent. Lots of guys getting PTOs. Why don't you fill us in on those as well as some of the other news? And then we'll get into our top 10 list for goaltending.
So for professional tryouts, a bunch were announced today. Troy Brouwer, who actually played with Florida last season, is actually coming back on a PTO this year with them. Calgary announced a slew of PTOs. They got Devontae Smith-Pelly, Tobias Reeder, Zach Rinaldo, and Alex Grenier all signed on tryouts along with Andrew McDonald that they did last week. Minnesota brought in Drew Stafford on a PTO. The New York Rangers brought tough guy Michael Haley in on PTO. Lance Boma with the LA Kings. He actually spent last year in Switzerland, but he actually only played 3 games in Switzerland before he had a season-ending knee injury. But he played with Chicago in 2017-18, the year prior. Stefan Newson with the Dallas Stars joined Scotty Upshall on the PTO. And one signing that I forgot to announce was Adrian Kempe with the LA Kings. He had a 3-year, $6 million deal. He'll be like a third-line checking center there with the Kings.
Excellent. Some minor news, I know, as well, before we get into the top 10 list.
Yeah, right before we do that, I forgot about the retirements or taking a break. We'll add that in there. Ben Lovejoy retired after 11 seasons in the NHL. He won the Stanley Cup with Pittsburgh in 2016. Nicholas Cronwall was the biggest one, 15 seasons in the NHL with the Detroit Red Wings. Won the Stanley Cup in 2008 and won Olympic gold in 2006. He just came up just short of 1,000 games. He played 953 games in the NHL with 432 points. And the biggest thing was, we'll never see anybody get Cronwalled again with his signature hit. And also, Justin Williams announced he's taking a break from the NHL, which is different from retirement. But man, the guy's played a whole lot of hockey. He's played 1,244 games and another 155 in the playoffs. 3 Stanley Cups and a Conn Smythe winner as well. So he could do I guess the last player to maybe join a team mid-season was like Mike Fisher, where he sort of held out, and then around February or whatever towards the end he signed a deal and then joined the team. So he could do something like that as the season goes along. But if this is it, he's had one heck of a career, and to have a nickname like Mr. Game 7. You know you've done well over your career. And then going into some minor news, Patrick Marleau's agent says that he will not be signing with the San Jose Sharks, but he's exploring other NHL options. Patrick Laine is skating over in Finland as of right now, so he joins guys like Mikko Rantanen.
All those RFAs just waiting to sign. I can't wait to see what happens with that.
We're getting so
John
close.
Tortorella spoke out against his RFA.
Yes.
I understand it should be in camp, right? So
yeah. Torts said he's going to be disappointed and disgusted if Zach Werenski is not there in camp. But if you read the whole story, it's more like he wants him there just because Werenski's developed so well over the past couple of years that he doesn't want any of his players missing one day at camp just because he's just that good of a player, and he sees the next level in his game that he can reach. Also, in the junior levels. The London Knights are going to be retiring Patrick Kane's number 88. Kane actually only played 1 year with the Knights, and that was his draft eligible year. And just going back on that season, he had one heck of a season. He had 62 goals, 145 points in just 58 regular season games. And then he had another 10 goals and 31 points in 16 playoff games. So I think it's well worth the retirement there. And then just on a Canucks note, Olli Juolevi, Jim Benning said today that he's good to go. But if there's any re-aggravation in his knee, that he'll go back on his rehab status, and the Canucks will go with a cautious approach with him. But yeah, that's about it for all the little tidbits.
We wish Dale Howard-Chuck of the Barrie Colts a fast recovery as he stepped away for illness reasons, and hopefully everything's okay there. Great hockey player, Dale Howard-Chuck. Love him. Helped set up the Gretzky to Lemieux Game 3 late 6-5 win winning goal in Canada Cup '87. For those that remember, if you watch the replay from the length of the ice, you'll see he absolutely mauls one of the Russian players coming back to try to get back to block the pass, and because of that, Gretzky's able to get it to Lemieux. So that's my Dale Howard-Chuck memory.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that game, but I remember TSN did a rerun a bunch of the old Canada games. I think it might have been at the last lockout. I want to say that they did some stuff with the old Canada games. So it's been a while since I've seen those games, but I always find it fun going back to those older games and seeing all those players play.
Yeah, I think Larry Murphy actually gets the second assist on that goal, but Howard-Chuck makes it happen by absolutely just hooking one of the Russian guys and then grabbing him and throwing him down onto the ice. So. All right, let's get into our top 10 goalie list. I know we were criticized a little bit last year, and we'll see how we do this year. I think, I looked at this list, and no matter what we do, there's a couple of decent goalies that are going to be left off of it. So we're going to start with Matt's list. We're going to go 10, his 9th, and his 8th on his top 10. And then we'll do my 10, 9, 8, and then I'll keep going 7, 6, 5. And towards the end, we'll do honorable mentions before we get into number 1. So, Matt, start us off. Let's go.
Yeah, there were definitely some hard decisions, and there are goalies from last year that are not back on this list. But my number 10, he was a Vezina finalist this year. I'm going with Robin Lehner, with the Chicago Blackhawks. What an amazing season that he had! .930 save percentage in 46 games, and then in the playoffs, if it wasn't for him in the first round against Pittsburgh, the Islanders wouldn't have gone in as far against the Carolina Hurricanes in that second round. I'm taking a big bet that he's going to back it up this season in Chicago. But yeah, even with Buffalo, he had his ups and downs, but his save percentage has usually been pretty high. So I'm going with Leonard there. My number 9, I'm going with Marc-Andre Fleury with the Vegas Golden Knights. Great season last year. He was able to stay healthy. 35 wins, 8 shutouts last season. And just with all the experience that he brings, I think he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. My number 8 is Braden.
One of the best goalies in the NHL, and you only got him at number 9?
No, there's a lot of really good goalies. So, but a lot of it comes down to playoff success too. I think from last year too that goes into my boat. But also, my number 8 is Braden Holtby with the Washington Capitals. Another great season, leading the Capitals to the first place in the Metro last year. 32 wins in 59 games. Just one of the most consistent goalies every year in the NHL. And this year is a big year for him because he's in the final year of his contract. So he's going to be looking for a big paycheck this year if he has another big season. So that's my 10 to 8. Robin Lehner, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Braden Holtby.
All right. Well, I'm going to start it off with my number 10. I wanted this guy to be higher, but I couldn't find a spot for him. One of the most consistent goalies over the last 5 years. Anaheim Duck goalie John Gibson makes my barely makes my top 10 by coming in at number 10. My number 9, he had a great playoff, but he's been up and down in the regular season the last few seasons. And that's Tuukka Rask of the Boston Bruins. He comes in at number 9 for me. And then your number 10 comes in at my number 8, Robin Lehner. He could have gone either way on my list, but he had a heck of a season last year, co-winning the Williams-Jennings Trophy for the New York Islanders. And I look back and, before he was with the Islanders, he was with Buffalo and Ottawa, and his save percentage has always been somewhat decent. He's actually played pretty decent. He's just been on awful teams. So I think in Chicago this year, he's going to have a great season, although I'm curious to see what they do with him and Corey Crawford there. And how much ice time he's going to get. I have a feeling the NHL seems to be going to a lot of this 2-goalie system. So they might even alternate a lot there to help rest them. And by doing that, Crawford might not get injured this year for changes. He's been injured multiple years in a row now. So that's my 10 through 8, John Gibson, Tuukka Rask, Robin Lehner. Now I'm going to go 7 down to 5. My number 7, he's starting to get a little long in the tooth, but I think his team is actually rallying around him this year. And they're going to do it for Pekka Rinne, the Nashville Predators. I've got him as my number 7. It's going to be interesting. I think this is his last year potentially as a starter, unless he can somehow find the fountain of youth, because UC Saros is going to really make a push for that starting position in Nashville. My number 6, this guy came onto the scene, got rookie runner-up, but won a Stanley Cup, which is even better. Jordan Binnington. And the reason he's not higher is only because he's a rookie. And the 5 guys I have ahead of him have all proven themselves year after year after year. I want to see Binnington prove me wrong and continue to do what he did. But I still remember Jake Allen when he came in. Didn't win them the Stanley Cup, but had a great run for half a season as well, and that's why he became the starter there. I think Binnington, I'd like to see what he's going to do this year. To me, he's a big question mark. And I think he can back it up. I think that St. Louis team's primed to have another good season. But that's my number 6. And then my number 5 is your number 9, Mr. Marc-Andre Fleury out of the Vegas Golden Knights. 8 shutouts last year. I mean, this guy – they said he was done when they let him go in the expansion draft, and he's continued to play unbelievable for the Vegas Knights. He had a heck of a Stanley Cup run, obviously, 2 seasons ago. Last year, they fell victim to a non-caller or the Phantom Major.
Oh, man.
And that one still because here's the thing. If Vegas wins that game, I still think that they might go all the way to win the Cup last year if things were different. And we probably have Marc-Andre Fleury even higher. But that's my 7 through 5, Pekka Rinne, Jordan Binnington, and then Marc-Andre Fleury.
Well, number 7, perfect. I also have Pekka Rinne there in that slot. He's just consistent every single season. But yeah, as you brought up, having Juicy Saros there, I think him and Rinne both have 2 years left on their current contracts. And the way Saros has been playing, he's really going to be pushing Rinne, especially with some of the ups and downs in the playoffs that Rinne's had. But when it comes to the regular season, he's one of the most consistent goalies in the NHL, one of the most athletic goalies in the NHL too. So you'll once again be one of my favorite goalies to watch this year. My number 6 is Tuukka Rask. I know that the regular season, he sort of had an up and down regular season where Yaroslav Halak actually took over the starter's job for a little bit as he took a leave of absence earlier in the season. But the thing that moves him up so high on my list was the playoffs that he had this past season. .934 save percentage in 24 games. He was lights out for basically all the postseason until that.
He had a great postseason.
Yeah, and with that gives him an extra little boost this year for me to get him that high on my list. I'm hoping that he continues that up into this regular season. But yeah, he's been one of the most consistent goalies in the NHL. I believe like his career save percentage is like over 920, which is great. And with how good Boston is, it's like I think it's going to be another great season for him. And my number 5, another Vezina finalist this year. I was going to try to see if I could get him a little bit higher, but I have him at number 5 is Ben Bishop with the Dallas Stars. 46 games last year. He had some insane numbers. 934 save percentage in 46 games, a 1.98 goals against average, 7 shutouts, including, I believe, it was like a 3-game shutout streak or something insane like that. And then in the playoffs, he just about single-handedly carried the Stars to the 3rd round of the playoffs, as like he did everything in his power in that Game 7 against the Blues in the 2nd round. To get the Stars into that 3rd round. And even then, if you go off like that, like Jamie Benn, if it wasn't for Jordan Binnington making that goal line save as well, it could have been the Stars there. But yeah, it's like the one thing is with him is always the injuries. Is that he always seems to get hurt every season. But just the year that he had last year, he was just lights out when he was in net. So yeah, sorry, but yeah. So
let's do your 4 and your 3, and then I'll do my 4 and 3, and then we'll do our 2s, and then we'll go honorable mentions, and then we'll do our 1. And I have a feeling our 1's the same guy. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think even our top 2, I'm pretty sure it could be. I know mine.
Let's do the top 2 together. So we'll do 3 and 4, and then we'll do honorable mentions. Then we'll do 1, 2.
All right. So my number 4 this year, we got a lot of crap for leaving him off our list last year. It's Carey Price. Just going off of last season, like just his numbers and everything, it's just like I sort of put that above years previous. But last year it was a return to form for Carey. 35 wins in 66 games, a 918 save percentage. And if it wasn't for a strong Eastern Conference, the Habs would have made the playoffs if you go off of what Colorado had at 90 points. So he was back to his consistent regular self, that calm presence that emanates what the Habs are in their defensive structure. And my number 3 was your number 10. He was another guy that I've been up and down with, but became a big fan of him last year. John Gibson is my number 3. If it wasn't for him, the Anaheim Ducks would have been even more of a train wreck, as he had the least goal support in the NHL. I think the Ducks only had 199 goals for last year, and yet he still had a 917 save percentage in 58 games. And going off an advanced stat, which is GSAA, which is goals saved, or number of goals saved compared to league average. John Gibson made 28.63 more save, or 28.63 more goals saved above league average, which led all NHL goalies, which just showed the high level that he did last year. And if he was playing on a better team, he probably would have been a Vezina finalist if it wasn't for him. So yeah, my number 4, Carey Price. My number 3, John Gibson. But yeah, it's like the one thing that did hold back was the injuries. But last year he was just so good that I had to put him in my top 3 this year.
I'm a little surprised you don't have the Stanley Cup winner on your list, but for the reasons like I said, including him on my list, I think he needs to prove himself yet. But for me, my number 4 is your number 5, Ben Bishop. Absolutely helped Dallas as far as he could go last year. And Ben Bishop, I've always been a big fan, even when he was with Tampa Bay. And he always seems to run into a knee injury every once in a while. And if he can stay healthy, he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. My number 3 is the guy that we got roasted on last year, because Carey Price absolutely had a absolutely great comeback season. He did have the one off year, but I wanted to have him in my top 10 last year, but he had such an awful season in Montreal the year before. But I mean, we both kind of lost track of what he's done. And I mean, Carey Price, when he's on, he's one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. It's not necessarily about who's in front of you; it's how you, what you do in front of your net. And I still think if anybody was starting a team today, you'd want Carey Price in your net. So those are my number 4, Ben Bishop, number 3, Carey Price. Pretty sure we got the same number 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure they're the same order. But why don't we go with some honorable mentions first from you?
All right. So first of all, let's name some guys that aren't honorable mentions, but they were on my top 10 list last year. One of them would be Jonathan Quick, who, like Carey Price the year prior, had an absolute terrible, awful season last year. And Martin Jones and Devin Dubnyk were all omissions that I believe were on my top 10 list last year. Jones, I still can't believe he got the Sharks to the conference finals with his bad, with an .896 save percentage in the regular season last year. It's still insane that the Sharks got as far as they did. But my 5 honorable mentions that I'll list I got Frederik Andersen with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think he's still one of my favorite goalies to watch, though he did have a little bit of an inconsistent play towards the end of the season, and I think limiting his workload next season will do him a whole lot of wonders next season. Matt Murray with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Another goalie that's dealt with some injuries over the years, but also the 2 Stanley Cups that he's done or that he's won over the past 2 years previous.
I know a lot of Pittsburgh fans, by the way, are really upset. Like they're either on Team Fleury or Team Murray, and there's still fans to this day that are upset in Pittsburgh that they let Marc-Andre Fleury go, especially with the way he's played since he's left there. So.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are on one side of the fence with Matt Murray because there's just some guys that just absolutely hate him and some guys that really like him, and I swing on each side of the fence with him, but I had to put him on an honorable mention. Of course, Jordan Binnington is on my honorable mention list. Crazy rookie season. And of course winning the Stanley Cup. And the only thing that leaves him off my top 10 list is that I want to see him do it over an entire season, even though I know he just did lead the Blues to the Stanley Cup, but I want to see him do it over a full season. And if he does it again next season, he'll definitely be in my top 10 list next year. Connor Hellebuck with the Winnipeg Jets. His numbers dipped a little bit. I know he was up for the Vezina of the year previous, but still had another solid season. And I'm going to give my boy Jacob Markstrom some love as my last honorable mention. Especially December onward, he basically just about carried the Canucks into a playoff spot.
If he plays like that this year for the entire season, there's a possibility he makes our top 10 list next year.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is that he'll have help from Thatcher Demko, that the Canucks will actually have a backup goalie that can actually play good behind him. But yeah, I think if he follows up, if he played the way they did from December to the end of the season, that he actually was one of the best goalies in the NHL during that time period. So I'm hoping he can follow it up, and that wasn't just a one-off. But yeah, those are my 5 honorable mentions. But yeah, we'll get into yours.
Yeah, I only got 3. One of them was on your top 10 list, Braden Holtby. I love him, but I don't see him winning on his own a whole lot of games for Washington. I know Washington wins a lot of games, but it's not because of the goaltending that usually wins it. He had a heck of a Stanley Cup win the year before. I think he was like just near the bottom of my top 10 list if he was on it last year. But he to me, the other goalies that I put in my top 10 I feel are better than him. He's just got a really good team in front of him. He does seem to still let in a few odd soft goals, which bothers me, I think. But Frederik Andersen's on my honorable mention list. He's just a workhorse for Toronto. And you know what? He may be a better goalie than we let on, only because Toronto playing run and gun sometimes, he probably gets a lot of high-quality chances against. And he does the job for Toronto. But if Toronto had any of the goalies that we had on our top 10 list, I think it would be a pretty scary team.
Mm.
And then Devin Dubnyk is also one of my honorable mentions. Minnesota's really regressed the last couple seasons, and his play has not. He's actually won them several games. He continues to have pretty good save percentage and goals against average. But yeah, he's as an honorable mention for me. It's going to be interesting because I also want to say one of the Arizona goalies might come close soon to making this list, whether it's Antti Ranta or Darcy Kemper. Both goalies, when healthy, seem to do some really good numbers and stuff like that with Arizona. And I think Arizona might be pushing for a playoff spot this year for the first time in a long time. So keep those guys, watch them, and we'll see what happens. So let's get into our top two. My number two, of course, Roberto Luongo. I'm kidding. Of course, it's Andrei Vasilevskiy from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Makes absolutely unbelievable saves. We're opposite, aren't we?
Yeah.
How about your reaction? But yeah, for me, Vasilevskiy is he really needs to win a Stanley Cup round for Tampa Bay, and I think that's why he's not my number one. He's a heck of a goalie. But even though the goalie that's my number one, of course, is Sergei Bobrovsky from the Florida Panthers, I can't wait to see what Florida does this year and what Bobrovsky does with a different team in front of him. I'm really curious because Bobrovsky Vasilevskiy has just an unbelievable team in front of him, but he is a crazy good goalie. But Bobrovsky has had really bad teams in front of him, and he still wins. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. So I'm guessing you're the opposite.
Yeah. So I got Bobrovsky as my number two.
That surprises me a little bit. I know you're a big Bobrovsky fan, so.
Yeah, well, I'm probably my two favorite goalies are actually these two, in Vasilevskiy and Bobrovsky, and they sort of flip flop on which goalie I like. But as of today, I got Bobrovsky at my number two. But yeah, it's just and especially the playoffs that he had, because that was the one question mark that everybody said he's great in the regular season, but can he get it done in the playoffs? And well, he was one of the big reasons why they swept Tampa Bay in the first round, and then he
played Vasilevskiy in that series.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. It's like two Vezina trophies on his mantle as well. He had led the league with 9 shutouts as well last year. Yeah, and going to Florida, that was like the one thing that they needed was a goalie that can make the big time save, which they didn't get all last season. I'm super excited to see how far Florida's going to get this season with him in net. And then Vasilevskiy won his first Vezina trophy, probably first of many Vezina trophies in his career. Like Bobrovsky's really athletic. Some of the saves that he makes, I still don't know how he can contort his body.
One against the LA Kings really stands out to me.
That one, and then I think he had one against Toronto where he's sort of like on his stomach. I don't know how he's able to turn his pad. And yeah, it's just, but yeah, 39 wins in 53 games last year. Just insane. 925 save percentage, 6 shutouts. Of course, yeah, you can bring up that he has the best team in the NHL in front of him. But he also does his part. It is a team that can
Matt, you would be on this list if Victor Hedman was in front of you.
Well, Victor Hedman and Ryan McDonough on the second pairing as well. Like having defensemen like that in front of you really helps. But yeah, I still think he is the best goalie in the NHL. But yeah, it's like of course, like you have Bobrovsky and everyone, Vasilevskiy. You can flip flop those guys any day of the week. But yeah, as of today, Vasilevskiy, I believe, is the best goalie in the NHL, and I'm hoping he can get it done in the playoffs. Because just with that team that Tampa Bay has, like they should be Cup favorites, and if it wasn't for like the biggest choke job in probably NHL history, they should be a Cup favorite again this year. And it's just that playoff success now, like Bobrovsky's been holding off on in his career.
Well, just to quickly recap the list: Matt's top 10: Andrei Vasilevskiy, Sergei Bobrovsky, John Gibson, Carey Price, Ben Bishop, Tuukka Rask, Pekka Rinne, Brayton Holtby, Marc-Andre Fleury, and then Robin Leonard. In my top 10 list, I got Sergei Bobrovsky, Andrei Vasilevsky, Carey Price, Ben Bishop, Jordan Binnington, Pekka Rinne, Robin Leonard. Oh, sorry. Ben Bishop, Marc-Andre Fleury, then Jordan Binnington, Pekka Rinne, Robin Leonard, Tuukka Rask, and John Gibson. So those are our top 10 lists, guys. Remember to comment below. Let us know what you think your top 10 lists are. I'm curious to see if some of the goalies that we gave honorable mentions to are on yours. And we'll be back, of course, next Wednesday for another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. Continue to watch on Facebook our depth chart breakdown of the last few teams as we're getting near the end of the league. Matt, final word before we end today's show.
Yeah. So please comment on the list, because like if it's anything like the NHL did like a top 20 list for the goalies, and that was like and all their other lists have been pretty controversial and where they listed guys. So I'm really interested to see where your guys' opinions on our list. Yeah, and of course, as you brought up, we're all the way up to the San Jose Sharks now. We'll have Tampa Bay actually tomorrow as our next team season preview, and by the end of next week we'll have
Friday.
Yeah, that'll be the big one. So, but yeah, we're just about at the end here, and hopefully next week, by the time training camps are starting up, we will have RFAs signed, and we will be able some big news, and we should have our top 10 defenseman lists up on our next show next week as we continue to get primed up for the start of the season. So, but yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. And we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you guys later.